Head south.
Okay, what the I thought I'd post up a really quick video in response to the Westworld competition and the final announcement that the winner was David Cadell with a piece called 8-Bit, and there seems to be a bit of uproar.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
That being said, I have gone back and I've watched that winner's announcement again, and I've reviewed the finalists, or the runners-up I should say, again, and I've reviewed the winning piece again. And then I had to listen to it again for a third time before I decided to make this video. Because I'm going to be totally honest with you, on the first listen, I totally agree with the crowd here. I totally agreed with the crowd. I was like, what the heck, this is a joke. You know, you're thrown a bit by those 8-bit sounds. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, you probably do know, the reason it's called 8-bit, I'd assume, is because those are the sound effects that came from the 8-bit Sega Master System and NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, education system. I think specifically it sounds like they came from a game called Mega Man, which I was big into when I was a kid. But anyway, that aside, this composition by David Cadell is loaded with these sound effects from that era, and it is quite creative. And what threw me was not the fact that he'd used 8-bit sounds, and I think this is where the crowd are frustrated, and a lot of the people who have entered are frustrated with the winner's choice, is the fact that it does make the entire scene feel rather comedic. It doesn't feel serious, you know. It reminds me of a film, one of my favourite films. What was it called? Anyway, but it does feel very comedic. And initially I was like, nah, this is a bit of a joke. Now, upon second listen, the scoring in that composition really is quite brilliant. It's very, very good. There's no questioning that David Cadell is a fantastic composer. The scoring and the way he's able to bring elements in and blend in the drums, pull them in, there's, in terms of its action credentials, if you question it and you're like, this is garbage scoring altogether, then I think you're just bitter, because the scoring really is quite brilliant. So you can't take away from that. But I think people, in essence, have been thrown by the fact that the 8-bit element does seem to take away, it subtracts as opposed to adds to the quality of the competition on first view. Now, I've got two kind of additional quid pro quos that I want to throw out there. Curveball number one is that, thinking about the theme of Westworld, we're talking about AI. And what are AI other than advanced computers? So there is a theme that kind of ties in and justifies the use of 8-bit sounds, because I haven't watched Westworld for a long time. I think I stopped after season 1. I shouldn't really reveal that. I stopped after season 1, but I do know that girl in the car with the big bazooka or whatever, she's an AI. You know, she's out of, she came out of Westworld. Perhaps those sounds are representations of perhaps what's going on within their minds. They're not fully human. They have got this computer element to them that we can't see on a physical level, or they can feel. I thought that was an interesting curveball, an interesting caveat. Curveball number 2, and this one isn't really a curveball, but I read into some of the comments, the announcement comments, and then some of Christian Henson's comments afterwards, who obviously is a part of the Spitfire team. And one recurring thing that seemed to keep coming up was the fact that the competition entries were very high quality. The competition entries were very proficient. And After they chose their competition winner, one has to consider that perhaps this is not a compliment. Perhaps this is a slight. Perhaps what they were looking for were things that were more edgy, that they don't get from normal on-screen composers. And the reason I say that is because I get the feeling that this decision to go with this competition entry wasn't so much that it was perfect and uber brilliant and answered the brief, or did everything really, really well. I think the judges were drowning in a sea of boredom. I think that they were very bored. I think all the entries were very proficient. And the thing is, this kind of marries up with another video that I released literally just about 2 weeks ago, where I was talking about the same problem that we have in the hip hop community, where there's a lot of proficiency. Producers are much better than they used to be. But as a result of being much better and very proficient and very excellent, a lot of hip hop production has gotten very boring. People aren't being edgy, people aren't standing out, and as a result, the people that do things slightly different stand out immensely. And this perhaps wasn't the greatest standout composition that they've ever heard, but it stood out in terms of this competition, where I think a lot of people would have perhaps taken a very traditional approach to seeing composition. They'd read the brief, they'd taken it very literally, and they'd created something that was really good but ultimately was sound alike. What does David Cadell's entry sound like? To me, it doesn't sound like anything. It probably sounds like him. And I think that in the end is what stood out. You can't really slam David Cadell for creating something, but you can slam the other 10,000 entries that within that there wasn't someone who'd done something different and done it better than David Cadell. If more people had tried to stand out, perhaps let's say 10% of the entries had really gone for it and said, I'm going to do something really different, then we perhaps would have had a different winner, because there would have been other standout entries that would have executed it better. In the end, they've gone for an entry that perhaps execution wasn't great, but it was different enough, and he obviously is proficient enough in terms of his composition capabilities that it was good enough for him to win the competition. So that's kind of my view on it. Like I said, won't be very might be popular, might be unpopular, but I think that's my view on it. I get it. I am with the crowd in this one. I did think initially this isn't great. This is a bit too comedic. This doesn't really match Westworld, but at the same time, I think that the people who made the decision were ultimately bored.